breaking news, Germany have reversed their policy. All of a sudden now they're going to send heavy weapons to Ukraine. So until now, Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, he sort of shied away from that, and they were criticizing him quite heavily. Here's the headline from Bloomberg News. They say Germany signals shift on weapons to Ukraine with tank deliveries. Okay? So Chancellor Olaf Scholz's administration signaled more weapons will flow to Ukraine after Germany took a first step to supply heavy weapons to the country by allowing delivery of anti-aircraft tanks to counter Russia's invasion. So they're going to give the Ukrainians 50 of these things, which are called Gepard, and they are, as you can see, they are armored vehicles, they're tanks, but more importantly, they are anti-aircraft, which you can see. And just going back to the Bloomberg piece, they say the government is authorizing the transfer of 50 Gepard rapid-fire armored vehicles from manufacturer Krauss Maffei Wegmann, and the defense minister, Christine Lambrecht, confirmed the plans on Tuesday without specifying figures. So let me show you a video. Let me show you a video of her talking about the weapons that they're going to send now. This is the German Defense Minister Lambrecht.
Wir haben gestern entschieden, dass wir die Ukraine unterstützen werden mit einem Flugabwehrpanzer, mit Geparden. Das ist genau das, was die Ukraine jetzt braucht, um den Luftraum zu sichern vom Boden aus. Das ist hier nochmal deutlich geworden. Deutschland ist dazu bereit. Und wir werden auch heute im Rahmen der Konferenz alle Möglichkeiten ausloten, wie wir weiter die Ukraine in diesem mutigen, aber in diesem wichtigen Kampf für Freiheit, für Frieden unterstützen können.
Right, so why the policy shift? Because for the better part of the last week, we've been hearing things like Olaf Scholz is spineless, and you know, he's working for the Kremlin. I'm not even kidding. Look at these things that you see on the internet. It's incredible. You have people saying here that Scholz is a Kremlin asset. So Scholz is the German chancellor, right? They say that he's a Kremlin asset because he doesn't want to give the Ukrainians tanks. Here you see that Olaf Scholz is a pro-Russian agent. And this is incredible to me, right? Because as you guys know, we covered this here. Germany canceled the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, obviously with Joe Biden literally standing next to Olaf Scholz and pressuring him to do it. And Germany has sanctioned Russia. So overall, they've pretty much done everything that the EU is doing and the UK is doing and Germany and the United States is doing. So the idea that he's still a Kremlin asset, like the German chancellor is still working for the Russians because he doesn't want to send heavy weapons. This is incredible. This is amazing. It just shows you how quickly the West is, and specifically liberals are, to bite you, to jump at you, and say that you're a foreign agent, you're a spy, you're a traitor, because you don't want to do what they want, or you don't agree with them 100%, despite already sanctioning Russia, despite canceling Nord Stream 2. This is scary, but I think it's important to point that out. And of course, this is because Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, he was saying things like, es darf keinen Atomkrieg geben. So his idea was that if Germany starts sending heavy weaponry to Ukraine, that's going to provoke Russia and start, or lead to World War III. And people are saying, well, you're a hypocrite because the UK are sending heavy weaponry. Other countries are sending heavy weaponry. And World War III is only going to start, or a nuclear war is only going to start because Germany's sending heavy weaponry. So that's the criticism that people have been making. I think it's funny that trying to have a rational position, like, yeah, let's not do a nuclear war. How about we don't do what might lead to a nuclear apocalypse? Like, that's considered being disloyal or irrational. Very lovely times we're living in, right? Very, very lovely times. Let me show you. This is Anna Baerbock. She is the German foreign minister. Let's take a look at what she had to say a few days ago.
Zweitens, auch das habe ich immer wieder deutlich gemacht, andere Partner liefern jetzt gepanzerte Fahrzeuge. Ich möchte hier und deutlich sagen, das ist auch für uns kein Tabu, auch wenn es in der deutschen Debatte manchmal so klingt. Wir haben deswegen solchen Lieferungen ja bereits auch.
So she again, that's Annalena Baerbock. Sorry, I said Anna before. Annalena Baerbock, she's the German foreign minister, and she said that it's not a taboo to send heavy weaponry. Some of our partners are already doing that. And the thing is, I want to point you to this article that appeared in ZDF, which is a big German outlet. And here it is. So let's take a look. Why the shift in policy? Why the shift in policy? So they're saying here that wir arbeiten gemeinsam mit unseren amerikanischen Freunden bei der Ausbildung von ukrainischen Truppen an Artilleriesystemen auf deutschem Boden und wir werden zusammen mit den Niederlanden Ausbildung an Panzerhaubitzen und Munition für die Ukraine bereitstellen. So they're saying that we're working with our American friends, okay, on training Ukrainian troops with artillery systems on German soil, auf deutschem Boden. And that we will provide training with the Netherlands for the Ukrainians on, operating howitzers and ammunition. That's very interesting. They are training the Ukrainians on German soil in a NATO country. Okay? Now, there's another part in the article. They're asking how many tanks will Germany give to Ukraine. Again, the number is 50. That's what has been widely reported. So I'm going to skip over that because I think that's the figure that's been established now. Here's another part in the article. They're saying that zwar hat die Ukraine großen Bedarf an solcher Flugabwehr. Das Gepard-System gilt jedoch als eines der komplexesten und ausbildungsintensivsten. Okay, so they're saying, Ukraine has a great necessity and requirement for air defense. And the Gepard system, which is this tank that I was showing here, this anti-aircraft tank, is one of the best. Is one of the best and most complex and training intensive. Okay, so they don't know any details about when it's going to be transferred or when they're going to be training the Ukrainian crews on the Gepard. And in view of the fact that the German government recently rejected the transfer of armored infantry vehicles, German policy again appears inconsistent. Obviously, that's exactly what I'm telling you, because one day they're saying, that's why I said before Germany changes its positions like socks. It's true, right? One day they say, we're not going to send any weapons. Okay, we'll send some weapons, defensive weapons, but no heavy weapons. Okay, we'll send heavy weapons and defensive weapons. It's so confusing. And the same thing with Nord Stream 2, right? Schultz wouldn't talk about Nord Stream 2, and then all of a sudden he's canceling it. I'm just giving you the latest. And of course, let me show you some things here. This is from Politico. Look at what the headline reads. They say pressure grows on Germany's Schultz to send heavy weapons to Ukraine. And of course, if you scroll down, you'll see that it's from inside the government. Now, Germany, of course, has a coalition government. It's called the Ampel Coalition. So Ampel is, it's a traffic light coalition, because you have, like a traffic light, you have red, yellow, and green. So that pressure is coming on him, not just from the media, but from inside the government. And they're saying that Western allies and members of Scholz's governing coalition have become increasingly blunt in publicly criticizing the Social Democratic Chancellor and urging him to send tanks, artillery, and other material to Ukrainian forces. The Germans, quote, the Germans must firmly support Ukraine today if we are to believe that they have drawn conclusions from their own history. That's from Donald Tusk. Estonian Prime Minister posted a chart on Twitter showing the support provided by a range of countries to Ukraine. And it shows Germany at the bottom. So they're basically trying to, shame the other countries into sending more weapons. So, that's basically their point. This is government support to Ukraine by donor GDP. Okay? And it's in percentage of GDP by country. Just going back to the Politico article. Like I said, again, Schultz... Man, I don't know why I keep scrolling up like that. Schultz so far had ruled out delivering German tanks like the Leopard or Marder models. Okay? German officials have said Berlin will not be able to meet its own NATO commitments if it supplied those tanks from its own armed forces. And that's interesting because, as you know, Germany has now done something that Donald Trump really wanted them to do. Germany has done something that NATO really wanted them to do, which is to raise their expenditure, their military expenditure, from 1.5% of the GDP to 2%. That's quite significant. So just a few weeks ago, after the war began in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, the special operation, whatever you want to call it, the Germans raised their military expenditure and they committed 100 billion euros to the military. That's more than Russia, just for context, right? That's more than Russia. Ah, look, they're mentioning the T-72. I was talking about the T-34. The T-72 is obviously much newer, but still. The article says that they have also argued it would take months to train Ukrainian forces to use the German tanks, whereas they're already familiar with Soviet-designed equipment such as T-72 tanks, which Eastern European NATO countries still have in stock. Again, this is another big issue, because you had countries saying, like, why aren't you giving Eurofighters to Ukraine? Why won't you send them F-35s? Dude, they don't know how to fly them. Are you stupid? Like, they're trained on MiGs and SUs. They don't know how to fly these planes. What's the point of giving them? You're not only going to provoke Russia, they're also unusable. Are you going to have someone from NATO flying them? That's even more provocative. You know, that's complete nonsense. So nonsensical. Now, obviously, let's be very clear. It's not impossible to train the crews, but it is a significant problem that you have to take into consideration. It's not just, oh, we'll send you weapons and that's it. You have to train these crews. It takes time, lots of logistical effort, manpower, energy. And of course, at that point, you know, you risk, again, provoking Russia. And it's not about, oh, you know, we have to leave Russia alone and Russia's a cuddly teddy bear. No. Russia has more nuclear weapons than any country on earth. So when I say you don't want to provoke Russia, it's kind of the rational thing that you should be thinking about, okay? Because you don't know at what point Russia is going to look at that and say, okay, that's enough. You don't know, right? It's really a gamble. It's a very, very dangerous gamble, and they're gambling with all of our lives. This is not a joke, a nuclear apocalypse. They're gambling with all of our lives because, you know, you say, okay, we'll just send some pistols. We'll send some javelins. We'll send some NLAWs. We'll send some tanks. Like, at what point does it become too much? Does it cross the line? And then the Russians consider using a nuke? I'm just hypothesizing, but you shouldn't take this lightly. This is not a joke, having NATO against Russia with, you know, a country that has more nukes than anybody. I'll show you something from Lavrov in a second, what he thinks about nuclear war. But let me just continue here. You have members of both the Greens and the Liberal Free Democrats, so FDP and SPD partners in the governing coalition, that have urged Schultz to speak out and step up. So the chair of the Bundestag is Germany's parliament. The chair of the Bundestag's defense committee says, all I ask is for leadership and a clear approach. We must not lose any time when it comes to Ukraine. It's just a mystery to me why the communication and actions are so unclear. So again, this is really funny, right? You have the Green Party. Just, again, I'm being sarcastic here. I know this already. I know how it is in Germany. But I'm just trying to tell it to you, like, how the Greens, which are supposed to be, like, you know, oriented towards peace, towards protecting the environment. No, they have a hard-on for war. They want the war, right? And it's not just them, but it is funny how these parties are. It is really funny. And you see that this trend doesn't just exist in the UK or the US. It's even in Germany. Just give me a second to go back to this ZDF article. I want to show you something here. Sorry, this is from Military Times. I already read to you the other one. But let's take a look here. You guys know Ramstein Air Base? So Ramstein Air Base is, as the name implies, an air base. It's an American air base that's in Germany. You know, after World War II, the Americans never left. And some people jokingly say that the United States is still occupying Germany. Now, the thing is, Germany has more US troops than any other EU country. So I think the number is 38,000 US troops. And the drone strikes that they carry out all over the world, you know how horrific they are. You know how horrific the drone strikes are. They are killing mostly civilians, and they have no, the drone operators, the U.S. military, they have no respect. They have no care for civilian life, complete disregard. And those drone strikes are often coming from this American airbase in Germany, the Ramstein airbase. Here's just a picture very quickly. I'll show you. Again, it's absolutely enormous. It's absolutely enormous. And I want to show you what that means, because right now you have, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's about 40 different countries that are meeting in that airbase right now. And it's, of course, mostly NATO countries. Here's a headline from Deutsche Welle. So what is the goal of the conference? The aim is to secure Ukraine's long-term security and sovereignty and how it will defend itself. The US has invited defense ministers and representatives from 40 countries to participate with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. And I want to show you something from here from Military Times. This is from 2014. A Yemeni man sued Germany over US drone strikes because, again, they're launching them from the Ramstein airbase. And this is where all these 40 countries are now meeting over Ukraine. So you can see that Germany plays a huge role in the American war effort, not just because it houses so many US troops, but because this is where a lot of flights are, a lot of sorties are carried out from, and of course, a lot of drone strikes. And now they're having this meeting with 40 different countries to, decide what to do about Ukraine. And now Germany has gone from a neutral country, supposedly neutral, to let's spend 100 billion euros on the military. Let's increase our military expenditure from 1.5 to 2% GDP, just like Donald Trump wanted, just like NATO wanted. Let's go and start sending not just defensive weapons to Ukraine, but tanks, anti-aircraft tanks, heavy weapons, as they're saying. And where is this pressure coming from? It's coming from outside Germany and inside Germany, from the Greens even. The Greens, who are supposed to be pro-environment and pro-peace, they have a hard-on for war. Do you see the utterly wretched and dismal state of European politics? This is what neoliberalism gets you. This is what neoconservatism gets you. This is the state of affairs. Wow. So, again, I don't know about you guys, but there's a reason the United States, for all its faults, there's a reason the United States was one of the biggest proponents of let's disarm Germany. Because when you give Germany weapons, it usually doesn't end up well. Or let's say when you let Germany run wild with its arms industry. Today, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? They're just trying to defend Ukrainians. How dare you? Why are you against that? You're a pro-Putin propagandist and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and what about in 20 years? What's going to happen in 20 years? You really think that's a good idea, given what happened in the 20th century, to let Germany rearm? You really think after World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, you think this is a good idea? Man. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to criticize the UK and the US for their foreign policy. But don't come here and tell me that, letting Germany run wild like this is good. This is gonna have very adverse effects and an adverse reaction down the line. And I'm not looking forward to that. And I think that the fact that Schultz caved into this pressure is really, I know a lot of people call him spineless before this. When he was standing next to Joe Biden and Joe Biden spoke for him. Can you imagine how disrespectful that is? That you're talking about a pipeline between Russia and Germany. So it's a Russian and a German affair. And the US president is standing next to the German chancellor and deciding for him and speaking for him that this pipeline will be canceled. Again, whatever you think about Russia, whatever you think about Germany, that is humiliating, honestly. And it really shows you who's running the show. And it shows you that for all intents and purposes, Schultz, he's not very good at withstanding pressure. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying his job is easy. I don't think it's to be easy in that position at all. But I think the intensity of the pressure, this idea that if you don't help Ukraine and do exactly what we say, you are a traitor and you are a Kremlin agent. And they don't say it directly all the time, but they sort of imply it, that you're not doing enough. You're helping the Russian war effort. Let me tell you one thing, man. The only people that are profiting from this are the arms manufacturers. And of course, Germany has many, many, many of them. And Germany, when we say that it had a neutral stance, I say that with an asterisk, because if you look at what happened in Yemen, make no mistake, despite Germany saying it's neutral, a lot of German weapons were ending up in Yemen, killing Yemenis and being used by the Saudis. So they had a loophole. Instead of Germany selling the weapons directly to Saudi Arabia, they would sell them to an Italian company, for example, and then the Saudis would buy it from the Italian company. It doesn't change anything. It's still German munitions and weaponry ending up there and being used, and they're making money from it. So don't forget, you have an industry in Germany, an arms industry, that's nothing new, but they are profiting from this as well, and they do stand to gain. And the problem is that you have people in Germany, in the UK, in the US, who have a profit incentive to make sure this war extends as long as possible, even if it means, fighting Russia down to the last Ukrainian, just as long as they can make a buck. And whipping people into shape who don't agree with them, whipping them into line, shall we say, for not agreeing with them 100%. And again, this Ramstein airbase, there's a lot of evil coming out of that airbase. A lot of innocent civilians that have been killed. Daniel Hale, who's in prison right now in the United States, the drone whistleblower, as he's nicknamed, because he was working in the U.S. Air Force, and he gave these documents that showed the United States at one point in a 5-month period under Obama, 90% of the people killed by drones were civilians. So this shows you the callous disregard for human life, for civilian life, which they love to criticize Russia for. But Obama gets away with it. He's okay. There's no war crimes prosecution or tribunal for Obama. There's no sanctions for the U.S. because those war crimes are okay. That's okay to murder people in Yemen, in Syria, in Afghanistan, Pakistan. That's okay. Don't worry.